Thank you all for joining us for Take Charge Live. Get moving is the theme this evening. And so we are going to talk about exercise, exercise for everybody, and specifically how exercise can help people who are experiencing memory or movement disorders. So as many of you know, Memory Movement Charlotte moved a few weeks ago to 411 Billingsley Road. And one of the many perks of our new location is its size and its capacity to have an in-house therapeutic gym. So we're working with our friends, Powerback, formerly known as Genesis Rehabilitative Services. You may know them as that. They are now Powerback, and they are right here in our building. And so we have the convenience and the joy of being able to work very closely with the therapists who are part of Powerback, and our physicians can observe patients in the gym, and patients can conveniently schedule their gym sessions with their doctor sessions. And all of it is just, it's been great so far. So without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Shelly Sedory, who many of you know as Dr. Edwards' nurse, and Kathy Lawrence, who is the Director of Physical Therapy with Powerback and our new roommate. All right, I'm going to spin the camera around.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon to talk about exercise. Before I started working at Memory Movement Charlotte, I was a college professor for several years, and I taught personal health and wellness. Invariably, when I would be teaching my class, one of my college students would raise their hand and they would say, "Mrs. Sedory, my grandfather is 95 years old. He never exercised. He ate a terrible diet. He smoked like a fiend and he drank every day. He was 95 years old. I'm going to do the same." And I would say to them, "Well, you can." I said, "But are you willing to roll the dice?" So everybody has, our longevity is kind of on a bell curve. Some people don't make it so far. Other people make it a lot longer. So the choice is yours and how you want to have that quality that's under that bell curve and how long you can extend it. So one of the things that really helps us with living a life full of vitality and energy, of course, is to exercise. So there's really kind of three reasons why exercise is good for us. One, of course, is it's good for our bodies. So Kathy is going to do a great job for us today, talking to us about strength training, flexibility, balance, and cardio. So we're going to be talking about all those things that are good for our body. The second thing that it's good for is our mood. So we've actually, there's a lot of research that shows that exercise is even better than some of the medications we have for anxiety and for depression. And part of this is because of the chemicals that are released in the brain, and part of it is some of the conditioning that's done over time. So we do know that exercise is really good for mood. Just recently, I had a caregiver stop by, and he said to me, "I have to ask you a personal question," which is always a little risky, but I said, "Okay, you can ask me." And he said, "How do you all deal with the stress of having patients and caregivers every day? What do you do?" And my first response to him was, "I exercise." And I said, "Most of us do." That exercise is so important for that reduction of stress and to allow for those good brain chemicals to be released in our body. The third thing that exercise is good for, and most people don't even really realize this, is for our minds. And so historically, they thought that the brain had a fixed number of brain cells that were there for over the lifetime, and you either use them or lose them. But actually, research has now shown we can grow brain cells, particularly in the hippocampus, which is where our memories are stored. The best way to develop these brain cells is to exercise. So exercise really does have a positive impact on our ability to have memories. So again, we can do exercise for our body health, we can do it for our mood health, and we can do it for our mind health and our brain health. So Kathy's going to take over now, and she's going to do a lot with us to teach us how to exercise so we can get those benefits.
Thank you, Shelly. I'm Kathy Lawrence. I'm a physical therapist, and I've been working with Memory Movement for over a year now. I think it's been. And of course, we just moved in here, but I want to talk today about general movement and exercise that anybody can do. And And we're going to talk about some exercises you can do at home that are really beneficial. We're going to target the most specific areas that you need to target based on aging, and do exercises that give you the biggest bang for your buck. So generally speaking, there's a lot of different ways to exercise. You've probably seen and heard them all, and you drive around Charlotte and you see gyms that you can work out at, and you see CrossFit. You've probably heard about high intensity training, and it all gets really confusing. You can even dance for exercise too. So there is a ton of ways that you can exercise, and this is really just a small way to start a program. And then when you start feeling really confident and you're like, I need to do more, then you would seek out some extra help for that. But generally speaking, there's a lot of research about exercise, as Shelly said. Most people all agree with the CDC recommendation. So we're going to talk about that. So the CDC recommends that you work out at a minimum 150 minutes a week. If you're doing a moderate intensity exercise, that's 30 minutes 5 times a week. Or you can do 75 minutes of a vigorous activity, and that's about 30 minutes, about 3 times a week, that you do strengthening and stretching 2 to 3 times a week, and that you do balance training 3 times a week, which is so important as we age, to add the balance component to your exercise program. So that's the CDC recommendation. In a little bit, I'll talk a little bit more about what moderate intensity exercise is and vigorous, so that you can kind of gauge that when you're doing your cardiovascular exercising. But first, we're going to start with flexibility.
So whenever I talked about flexibility with my students, Kathy, I would say to them, if you have a cat or a dog at home, it's a great example of why we do flexibility, because the first thing they do when they get up in the morning is they all stretch. So I love stretching. I think it feels great.
Yes, and flexibility has so many benefits, but to me, the biggest benefit is that it's going to help maintain your posture. Now, it also helps with joint integrity. It's going to help you stay nimble. It's going to help prevent injury. If you do start a workout, because you need that range of motion, if you're tight, even a little tightness, say in your hips, can affect how you walk too. So it'll start limiting your walking. So generally speaking, as we age, the muscle groups that seem to get the most tightness over time are your anterior chest muscles here. So everybody's shoulders kind of round forward. You can see I spent my life on a computer, so I'm always working on that as well. The hip flexor muscles, which are these muscles right here at the front of your hips, and then your hamstring muscles, which are these big guys here in the back. So the tighter you...
Did you say big guys?
Big guys. Hers are big. Hers are... She's got very good hamstrings. She's very flexible, which you'll find out. So what happens is you become rounded in your shoulders, you start having a forward flex posture, and then your knees start bending. And if you have a movement disorder, these muscle groups are especially affected. So we really want to make sure that we're working on these areas. So here's a couple stretches that you can do. So for the anterior chest, we like the corner stretch. So you just have to find a nice corner in your house. And you'll notice she's getting real tight in the corner. Her arms are at about 90 here. So you want these arms to be up nice so that you feel the stretch across your chest. And you're going to want to hold these for a good 30 seconds. And you can do multiple reps of that as well. So that's for the anterior chest. And she likes that stretch, so she's going to do extra long. And then for the hip flexor, which is this muscle right here in the front, most people have to hold on when they're doing this stretch, which is perfectly fine. The one leg goes back. If you notice down here, her heel is on the floor. Her knee here is straight. And she's going to be feeling the stretch on this opposite side. We'll have her switch legs in a second. and all of her weight is on this leg. And then you'll switch so you can see better what's happening at the hip here. And you can see right here, she's stretching this area real nice here. Now, sometimes you're gonna feel it in your calf. If you're really tightening your calf, then that's okay. So that's the hip flexor, we call it. And then the hamstrings. So these guys in the back like to get tight, and there's probably 100 ways to stretch the hamstring. But we just like the bending over pose. So you're gonna put the one foot in front, and then you're gonna keep it straight. And notice how her toe is up here as well, because we also want to keep the knee straight. So pulling your toe up keeps the knee straight. And then when you bend down, like you're gonna try to touch your toe, you're gonna feel this stretching here in the back of the leg. And same thing, you're gonna wanna hold it for about 30 seconds each side, do a couple repetitions. A good way to do flexibility is to do it either right before you exercise. Don't overstretch before you exercise though, because Dr. Cousin drew, but really nice to do stretching after exercise when you're trying to cool down. And you're just taking those muscles and you're just saying, okay, we're done exercising, we're gonna stretch, we're gonna relax. And these exercises are gonna help you really stand up tall, maintain your posture. So great. So next is balance. So balance is super important for folks as they age. Falling, loss of balance are the #1 reason that people go to see their doctor as they're aging. And it's the #1 reason why people usually come to physical therapy is because they're losing their balance, they've fallen. If you have a movement disorder, falling is very high risk. Sometimes it happens way too frequently. So balance has to be incorporated because we want to avoid injury. The biggest thing with balance is you don't want to fall. Once you have your first fall, your risk of fall doubles after that. So we want to do everything we can to prevent that first fall from ever happening. And obviously, falls also can cause great injury that could lead you to the hospital. So there's some simple balance exercises that you can do. Again, I caution you, she's doing it. I caution you that if you need to hold on for safety, please hold on, have something safe or have somebody next to you so that you don't lose your balance while you're doing a balance activity. But single leg stance is a great activity. We see the most changes in our senior population in their ability to stand on one leg. So it's just very simple. You just try to stand on one leg as long as you can. You want to shoot for 30 seconds. It seems like a long time, but you can do it. And even if you get to 10 seconds, that's great. If you can't stand on one leg, then you hold on to something while you're standing on one leg because you will get the same benefit. And then eventually you'll be able to let go. Okay? Melanie's trying it behind. She's doing great. Tandem stance is another good one. So you're just going to place one foot in front of the other so that you have a really narrow base of support. And you can do whatever you want with your arms to keep your balance. So if you're standing and you need to check yourself, that's perfectly fine.
Where do you put your weight, on the front leg or the back?
The back.
The back.
Yeah, it's usually on the back, or you can shift and make it kind of 50-50. And then you want to switch feet because you want both. You might find that one way you do better than the other. And it's just whichever leg is your dominant is usually going to do the best. We got to train our vestibular system a little bit too. So we put our feet together as close as you possibly can without losing your balance with your eyes open. And you're going to close your eyes. And your goal with this is to hold it for 30 seconds. And this is helping to train your vestibular system. So we're giving you a really small base of support. We're taking away your vision, which is a big component of balance, and we're making your inner ear do all the work. So it's going to make your automatic balance responses better. And then the last one, you want to do a little dynamic balance too. So walking backwards is a really great activity for that. Again, I give caution that you want to make sure that you have nothing in the way, nothing you can trip on because you can't see, or that you have a family member who is helping with that. So those are some good balance activities. So now my favorite stuff is strengthening. So I love to talk about strengthening. There is so many benefits to strengthening. Whenever you strengthen, your goal is that you're trying to improve your muscle performance through overload. So strengthening is hard. Your muscles are going to feel tired, but that is what's going to make them feel strong, and it's going to make you feel good. So strengthening helps with your fall risk, because the number one reason why people are falling is because they have lower extremity weakness. Strength helps with your joint integrity. So the stronger your muscles are around a joint, the tighter it's going to hold your joint, and there'll be less rubbing, and that causes less pain. So if you have osteoarthritis, strengthening is a great way to help relieve that pain by adding more stability. And then being strong helps prevent the osteoarthritis from either starting or progressing. And
even as a woman, I know people who, females in particular, are afraid of strength training because they don't want to get big bulky muscles. Honestly, you won't, you don't have the testosterone to get those big muscles like a man does, but it is critically important for women because it also helps calcium stay in your bones. So strengthening is a really important part of all of our fitness.
Yes, that was the one thing I was just checking on that I was going to forget, is that strengthening helps with osteoporosis. It's like I knew I was forgetting one. So that's why Shelly's here. All right, so when we strengthen, we want to strengthen and feel a little burn in our legs or our arms when we're doing these exercises. It tells us that we're working hard. It tells us that we're taking our muscle to fatigue and that we're overloading it. So I generally don't teach really simple exercises. So you're not going to get simple today. You're going to get exercises that are the biggest bang for your buck. So we like to do exercises that include a lot of different muscle groups into one exercise, right? So you're not sitting down and just kicking your leg and only working your quad. Okay, the exercises we're doing are going to work your quads, they're going to work your hamstrings, they're going to work your butt. We're going to work it all when we're strengthening. And that's how you get the biggest bang for your buck. And we're also doing functional stuff because that's what's going to impact your everyday life. And that's what's going to help you stay active long into your retirement years. Okay, if we're just sitting here and we're just kicking, that's not going to help you stand up from a chair. Okay, so with that being said, the sit to stand exercise is one of my favorite exercises, and we do this numerous times with all of our patients. It is also a big key indicator for what your strength is. So if you are not able to stand up from a chair without using your hands, we'll modify this exercise for you, but it is a key indicator that you have poor lower extremity function. You might be strong, but the function is missing, which is why we love this exercise. So when you do this exercise, you're not using your arms at all, and you're just standing up on that one tom, and then you're sitting down. Okay, and the goal for this is that you want to do as many as you can until you start feeling the burn. So you're going to feel the burn in your quads, you're going to start feeling the burn in your butt, and you're just going to keep on going. If you need to modify, so if you have a chair and you can't stand up for it, add a little more height, or do it at the side of your bed. So usually people's beds are a little higher. So start there and practice your sit to stands and start getting really good at it from an elevated height. And then start lowering the surface so that you can get stronger and stronger and stronger. And the lower the surface, the harder it's gonna be.
Does it matter how far apart your feet are?
Your feet should be shoulder width apart so that you have good balance when you stand up. Because we don't want anybody losing their balance. So I also like to add an upper body component to this exercise. And if anybody here sees me as their physical therapist or their family member, they know I do this exercise with everybody, and I do it a lot because it helps with your legs and your posture. So you're gonna add an exercise band to the mix, and when you stand up, you're gonna reach that band across your chest, and you're gonna bring it forward. So see how when Shelly's using the exercise band, how her posture gets so tall, and she's really standing up at a great posture, which is why I love this exercise. And it strengthens your anti-gravity muscles, which are your shoulder retractors. And you can do it all at the same time. So one exercise, you're getting your legs, hamstrings, quads, glutes, and now you're getting your shoulder retractors too, and a little tricep, depending on how you do it. So I love that exercise. So speaking of shoulder retractors, you can do the rowing exercise. So you need a good band, and you need a good solid surface to connect it to. And what we're doing here is we're strengthening the muscles here between the shoulder blades. So when she's pulling back, her shoulder blades are squeezing together in the back. And she's really strengthening those muscles. And that's what's going to keep you really tall and upright and keep your shoulders from falling forward. So we call these muscles kind of your anti-gravity muscles. So these are your shoulder retractors are anti-gravity muscles. Your quads are anti-gravity muscles. Your glutes, are anti-gravity muscles, which is why we want to strengthen them, because it's going to keep you up in this really, really good upright posture. Now this exercise is the kneeling down. We're using a mat just because the floor is hard. If you're at home and you have a hardwood floor, it might hurt your knees. So get some sort of padding. If you're on the carpet, it might be okay. So it just kind of depends on how it feels. If you've had a knee replacement, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the less uncomfortable it's going to start feeling. But one of the biggest struggles that folks have as they age is their ability to get down to the ground and get back up to standing, because that lower extremity strength just starts getting weaker and weaker. So this exercise is just literally going down into, so you're holding for safety, going down into a kneeling position, and then coming back up to a fully upright standing position. So again, we're working on lower extremity muscles, especially the quads and the glutes with this exercise. And then when she's coming up tall at the end, she's using her trunk extensor muscles and giving them strength as well for beautiful posture. So one's ability to not be able to get up off the floor is a big indicator of disability. So when we're, as a physical therapist, when we're working with people, this is something we assess. It's whether someone can get down to a kneeling position and stand up, because it tells us a lot about the lower extremity strength. And you can advance this exercise depending on your capabilities. You can do it without holding on. If it's too hard to do at first, use your hands and help push yourself up, or put more of a stool on the ground so you're not going down quite as far. So maybe you're going half the distance to the ground and then you're standing up. You can modify it that way as well. But this exercise, you're really going to get a lot of bang for your buck. And it's going to keep you strong, it's going to keep you functional, which is what we are really looking for with folks. So those are my strengthening. Cardiovascular endurance is next. So I'm gonna get my little cheat sheet here because I got some information for you all. So when you're doing a cardiovascular workout, you're working out your heart and your lungs. Obviously, you're working out other parts of your body as well. You're getting blood flow to your lower legs. But as Shelly mentioned earlier, you're getting blood flow to your brain, and that helps with your cognition. So exercising helps to improve cognition. It helps delays any age-related declines that you might have. Cardio workout is really a must-have with seniors. So a lot of people now, Fitbits are like super popular right now. Everybody seems to have a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, an Apple phone that's counting your steps. Now it can be a little scary to see your steps every day, but this is how we judge kind of someone's lifestyle in terms of their activity level. So if you are at 5,000 steps or less, the CDC considers that a sedentary lifestyle. And believe it or not, there are some days that I'm at 5,000 or less, and I'm just slapping my wrist, usually on a weekend when I'm being lazy. So low activity is 5,000 to 7,500, somewhat active is 7,500 to 10,000, and active is over 10,000. So you're really shooting to get over that 10,000 step mark, and that is a lot of walking. For me, it's about 4 miles. It's going to be different for everybody based on your step length, how fast you're walking. It's all going to be different, but mine's roughly 4 to 5 miles a day, depending on how I'm getting my steps in. So the goal is to try to get to that 10,000 steps. I want to remind you about the exercise recommendations. So it's 150 minutes, which is 5 times a week for 30 minutes. If you're doing moderate level activity, 75 minutes, just 25, 30 minutes, 3 times a week. If you're doing vigorous. So if you're doing moderate intensity exercise, that could be like a brisk 30-minute walk. If you're doing vigorous, that's like a jog instead of a walk, okay? That's kind of that difference. We gauge, and you can gauge yourself, what your moderate level intensity is. And we do this by using the heart rate max. So heart rate max is found out by taking 220 and then you subtract your age. So for example, if you were 65 years old, your heart rate max would be 155. Moderate intensity exercise is 50 to 70% of that number. And a vigorous exercise is 70 to 85% of that number. So if you're 65, your heart rate max is 155. So if you're doing moderate intensity exercise, your heart rate is going to be between 77 and 108. While a vigorous heart rate would be 108 to 131. So that's how you know whether you're doing moderate or vigorous. Now, if you have cardiac conditions, it's going to throw this stuff off, and that would require you to have some sort of professional consultation. If you have a pacemaker, your heart rate is not going to change. So those are just some outliers that might affect how you're gauging, and there are different ways to gauge moderate and vigorous intensity. And you would just want to get some sort of professional opinion on how to determine what moderate and vigorous intensity is for you. So if you're using the bike, one example would be trying to get to 70 RPMs. So this is what 70 RPMs looks like. She's actually at 75, so she's doing real good. And you're going to do this for 30 minutes. And likely, if we took her heart rate, she's probably going to be in her moderate level intensity. Which varies for everybody, of course. And if you have a movement disorder, which a lot of you are either caregivers for someone with a movement disorder or you are somebody who has a movement disorder, some of these activities need to be altered in a different way and need to be monitored in a different way. But generally speaking, if you have a movement disorder, moderate level exercise for that 5 days a week is a must. You have to do it. It's going to keep you up and going strong and staying active. So that's that. So then just a couple things, keep an active lifestyle. So if you're not working out, if you're in a building and you want to do the stairs, say, instead of doing the elevator, if there's stairs to get into a building, making sure you're taking those stairs, take that little extra effort and do the stairs, because stair workout is really beneficial. Obviously, walking your dog is a great way, working in the yard. You can even do exercises while watching TV, which makes time go by faster when you're working out and you have a good show to watch. So that's kind of it in terms of a basic exercise program. If you do these things, just these things alone, you're going to feel yourself getting stronger and healthier, feeling more balanced, and you're going to want to do more too. So hopefully you enjoyed those demonstrations by Shelly. She did a great job.
I don't have to go to the gym.
She got a little workout. She got a little workout.
So a couple just caveats. One, if you develop dizziness, chest pain, excessive shortness of breath when you're doing exercises, you should stop and you should be examined by a physician before initiating an exercise program again. Secondly, you can always work with a trainer or a therapist to get started. It can sometimes be a really helpful way to start an exercise program. Third, exercise isn't a competition. So if I do 7,000 steps, for me, that could be great. And she does 12,000 steps, that can be great. And so it's not a competition with other people to see how much weight you can lift, how many steps you can go, how many times can you stand up from a sit stand. It really isn't the important part of exercising. The important part of exercising is doing what's good for you. And everybody has a place that they're starting from, and everybody has a place they can get to. So one of the things that you need to consider is how you want to meet some goals. If I say to you today, you're not doing any exercise at all, and I say to you, you need to walk 5 days a week, 2 days a week, do strength training, and every day you need to do some flexibility, the high likelihood is that you will fail, because none of us can go from 0 to 100 in one step. So the better thing to do is say, I don't walk at all. I don't do anything that gets my heart rate up. So for the next 4 weeks, 1 day a week, I'm going to start doing something. And then after 4 weeks, and you're used to doing it 1 day a week, maybe you go up to 2 or 3 days a week. So you build incrementally and you build what's good for you. Again, it's not a competition. It's all about you and your health. Any exercise is better than no exercise. So I just encourage you to get started with something. I know it sounds like a lot when you go through all these different things, but anything that you do to help your body, helps your mood, and helps your mind. So we want you to kind of wrap your head around that. There is a handout on our website. It's called Achieving Goals, and it can walk you through the process of how we kind of initiate health behaviors and how we become successful. I use this format quite a bit when I taught at the college. I was a health coach for my students. Every semester they had to choose a health behavior and then work towards changing it over 16 weeks. So it works very effectively if we take it in small chunks rather than trying to say we're going to do the whole thing at once. So I think that's really important. It's also great to have an exercise partner. So it's important if you're married, if you are, have kids or whatever, a best friend beside you. It's great to have someone to exercise with. It makes it more enjoyable because you have the social time, which is great for your brain. And it also gives you an accountability partner. So when you're like, I really don't want to go today, I have a long day at work, your accountability partner says, let's go. We're going to go exercise and take a walk today. So we're finished with our presentation. I hope you all found something valuable. And if anyone has any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them now.
I'm kneeling on the floor right now, so we'll see if those exercises work. Thank you so much, Shelly and Kathy. If anyone has any questions at all, you can turn your microphone on and say them, or you can put them in the chat box and we'll be glad to answer. I had a question. I'm just gonna for you. Questions here. Okay. I had a question about steps. You said some scary large numbers for how many steps a person needs in a day.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to clarify. My understanding is, I wear an Apple Watch and it counts my steps all day, but I don't purposely go on an hour walk or walk 4 miles just for fun every single day.
Yep.
And they still seem to total up. So
Yep.
in that count is like every time you walk across the room.
Everything.
Okay.
I put my watch on. The second I wake up, so that even my first trip to the bathroom, I'm getting my steps in. So it's steps from morning to night. Any way you can get your steps, you get your steps. And it's just showing how active you can be. And like Shelly said too, if you just start monitoring your steps for curiosity and you're like, oh, I only did 3,000 steps today, don't go shooting for 10,000 tomorrow. Just shoot for 1,000 more, and shoot for 1,000 more, and shoot for 1,000 more, and work your way up to figure out, how do I get to 10,000 steps? I do not get 10,000 steps every day. Okay, and I'm a physical therapist and I work out with my patients all day long. Sometimes I do not get to 10,000 steps. It happens. It's how it is. You just want to shoot for that, make it a goal. And some people just really can't do that. I mean, I had a patient who, if he would do 2,000 steps a day, he had a cardiac condition, he did 2,000 steps a day. I was super excited and super happy because he started at 500 and he got to 2,000, and that's a big win. Okay, I think really the point is you got to move.
Yep.
You just got to start moving.
Yep.
The
numbers are only there as a guide. This is a guide for our how much steps we want to get in. But again, you've got to individualize it to you and what your goals are and where you start and where you want to get to. So we just want to make sure, that's an overarching theme. Like, you have to do it for you and what's working for you, where you are and where you want to get to.
Somebody asked in the chat, will any of these exercises be available in printed form? Are these on our website?
We can put them on the website.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
You're
sure.
welcome.
We'll get that up with the video. I really liked what Shelly said about how any exercise program is really individual. So it's not a race, and that's sometimes so hard for us to remember, that someone else's success doesn't mean that you lost.
Right.
Right.
That's why we encourage seeking out help from somebody, anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go to a physical therapist as long as it's medically necessary. You can also get it covered by Medicare, which is a big bonus, or you can go to a personal trainer. The personal trainers really are experts in exercise, and they're going to make an exercise program that is individualized to you and the goals that you want to work on. Obviously, we're doing a presentation. It's a very generic presentation, but if you work with somebody, no matter who it is, you're going to find that individualized program that's catered to what you like. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of people want to dance to exercise, they like music. And so, they might do more of a Zumba type of exercising, if you've heard of that. Some people hate weight training, which is me. I will never go to a gym and lift weights. I am a functional exerciser, so I would need a program that focuses on doing functional body lifting, squatting exercises, because that's my preference, and you are definitely more successful and will be more compliant if you're doing an exercise program that you like to do, mm-hmm. not one that you don't like to do. So I do recommend going to see somebody. I understand not everybody can do that, but highly recommend that.
And exercising with a friend also gives you that, there's the social component, and you can forget that you're doing something you maybe didn't want to start.
Yes, yes. My husband keeps me in check, and I'm a physical therapist, but he'll say, I did my workout today, and then I'll be, oh, okay.
There's another question here. Somebody's asked, can you repeat the information about determining heart rate based on age and whether moderate versus vigorous exercise?
Yeah.
All that math.
Yes. So heart rate max is 220 minus your age. That is going to be your maximal heart rate for when you're working out. The
So
key to that,
you should never go higher than that.
you shouldn't go higher than that. If you're going higher than that, you're seeking out medical attention at that point, like Shelly said, but you're probably experiencing symptoms that
We call it redlining.
Yeah.
Just to give you a word for it.
Your
Nobody
body-
wants to redline.
If you get to your heart rate max, you're gonna know it. You're gonna be really short of breath and not functioning well. So moderate is 50 to 70% of your max heart rate. Vigorous is 70 to 85%. So the example I used was if somebody was 65. So if you're 65, your heart rate max is 155. So when you're exercising, you're not going to necessarily see your heart rate going over 155, or else you're going to be struggling to catch your breath.
How do you know what your heart rate is? Is that on my fancy Apple Watch?
It can be on your watch, or you can flex your wrist and take your pulse right here on the thumb side of your wrist. Just flex your wrist because it pops the artery out, and just lay your fingers on and you can feel your pulse. Some people, depending what exercise you're doing, you can also check your pulse in your neck. You just take like kind of the center of your neck over your windpipe, slide your fingers into the groove, and you can feel your pulse there. So those are the two easiest. Some machines, if you're using a machine, have heart rate monitors built into them. So those are different ways you can check your heart rate.
So if you're doing it the old-fashioned way with your finger,
Yeah,
you
never
want to
check
count.
both sides. If you check both sides, you can put too much pressure and you'll faint.
But do you want
So
to count
only
for
one side of your neck.
a whole minute, or you could do like
You can
15
do
seconds?
15 seconds and multiply by 4. You can
Okay.
do 10 seconds and multiply by 6.
Great.
Sometimes it's hard to like be running and then checking your pulse at the same time. So oftentimes you can just stop, do 10 seconds, it'll stay up high enough, and then resume the activity.
Is
Yeah.
it reliable? I remember learning a long time ago that if you can sing, you're good. Wait, no, you should be able to talk but not sing. Is that right?
I do say that.
So
don't I?
I guess if you're singing while you're exercising, you're probably not getting your heart rate up high enough.
Right.
But you definitely want to still be able to talk when you're exercising. If you can't talk while you're exercising at too high of a level.
Okay.
So there's definitely a stopping point where you don't want to go further, and that is if you can't talk, you stop, you take a rest, let your heart rate come down, probably follow up with your physician, because I would guess that you probably weren't doing something that aggressive, at least based on what we were talking about today, that you would get to that point. People get to that point when they're jogging for long periods of time, but they can still have a conversation. But if you can't have a conversation, that's definitely a red flag.
Another good reason to work out with a friend. Someone to have a conversation
That's
with.
true.
Well,
That's true.
And we definitely encourage it with seniors, because as you can tell, some of these exercises do really challenge your balance. Or if you get down on the floor, you might not be able to get back up. So it's always good to have somebody around when you're exercising, or exercising, at a gym or a public area. Obviously, that's not the case for everybody. If you live by yourself and you're trying to exercise, keep your cell phone really close to you, keep your cell phone on you, or make sure you have that Apple Watch. So if something were to happen, you would be able to call for emergency. A lot of people on this call might not have, like the where you just push the button, but the Apple Watches are really, I'm not selling Apple Watches, I promise, but they're a really great feature, because if something happens and you fall and your cell phone flies across the room, you can call from your Apple Watch. So it's really a great safety feature too.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We are so grateful for your expertise and for your being our roommate. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
It is now my pleasure I also want to thank everyone here for participating. And we would like to thank our sponsor. So Janet LeClaire, Memory Movement Charlotte's Executive Director, is going to take it from here.
Okay. Thank you, Melanie, and thank you, Kathy and Shelly. That was absolutely terrific. I was taking notes, did a little query at the CDC show my ignorance. I didn't even know CDC had guidelines on the exercise. So that was really good information. They've got a nice little executive summary that easy to print off for people. So that was great. I did want to take a few minutes just to thank our sponsor, Southminster Long-Term Care Community, Embrace Healthcare, right down the road on Park Road, has been our sponsor all year for our Take Charge education program. They are a great partner of ours, and we, as many of you may know, in April, we opened up a satellite little clinic on the Southminster campus, and are serving our patients who are residents of Southminster and others who choose to see Dr. Edwards there as well. So we are very, very grateful for their support. They have also provide us with a very generous grant to help with scholarships for some of our annual fees. And they have just really, really been with us, very, very strong partners. They have Embrace Healthcare is their home care company. In addition to supporting the residents of Southminster, they also provide healthcare support, home care support to people outside of the Southminster community. So they're really well regarded. And if you have any questions, be happy to address them. Anybody in the office can do that as well. So thank you, Melanie.
Thank you very much to everyone for joining us. Again, thank you so much to Kathy and to Shelly, and get moving.